Snow drifted in slow spirals outside the tall cathedral windows, each flake catching the pale winter light like tiny shards of glass. The world beyond the heavy wooden doors was muted and colorless, the sky a dull slate gray, as if even the heavens hesitated to witness what was about to unfold inside. The air smelled of cold stone and wilted white roses left too long without water. Shadows stretched long across the aisle, swallowing the white runner leading to the altar, an aisle meant for a celebration, now thick with dread. Amara stood in the narrow bridal preparation room, hands trembling as she gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. Her knuckles were bloodless, pressed hard enough to tremble. The silk of her wedding gown, soft ivory, hand-beaded, felt suffocating against her skin. She could hear her heartbeat pounding in her ears, drowning out the distant murmur of guests waiting, unaware. Her reflection stared back at her from the cracked mirror. Brown eyes ringed with exhaustion. Full lips pressed tight, trembling no matter how hard she fought to steady them. And running from her left cheekbone down her jaw, a long, twisted scar, faded but unmistakable, like a cruel signature that the world refused to forget. She lifted a hand to touch it, and her breath trembled on the edge of shattering. This isn't how a bride is supposed to feel, she thought. But then again, what part of my life has ever gone the way it was supposed to? Behind her, the doorknob rattled violently. Her body flinched. Amara. A man's furious voice bellowed. Open this door right now. Her fiancé. Ethan Whitlock. Son of a senator. The man she was supposed to marry in 10 minutes, the man who once swore she was his miracle, before the fire that changed everything. Before the scars. Before he stopped looking at her face and started looking around for who might be watching. Her stomach twisted with nausea, thick and heavy. The door shook again under the force of his fist. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, he growled. We're going out there. You'll keep your veil down. You owe me that much. I won't be humiliated. Each word felt like a blow. And with every one, the room grew smaller. Veil down. Face hidden. Smile on command. No. No, I can't do this. Her breathing quickened, sharp and uneven. The walls felt too close. The dress too tight. Her throat ached, her eyes burned, and her pulse thrashed like a trapped bird desperate to escape its cage. She pressed her palms against the table and blinked hard, fighting the tears. And then she heard footsteps behind her, soft, measured, nothing like Ethan's frantic pounding. The footsteps stopped just a breath away. She didn't turn. She didn't have the courage. Are you always this calm? She whispered, voice cracking, or am I losing my mind? The man didn't answer at first. When he did, his tone was low and steady, like still water over stone. You're not losing your mind, he said. You're waking up. Amara froze. She didn't know that voice. Deep, resonant, accented. Korean. Warm in a way that felt disarming. Slowly, she turned. A tall man stood in the doorway now, silhouetted against the cold blue hall light. Broad-shouldered beneath a black tailored coat, posture effortless, composed. His hair was midnight dark, neatly styled, and his expression unreadable. But his eyes, dark, observant, alive with a quiet intensity, fixed on her like he saw everything she tried so hard to hide. She recognized him from whispered rumors, from the electric hush that fell whenever his name surfaced. Jae-hyun Kang. Head of the most feared Korean syndicate operating in the shadows of the city. The man whose presence made politicians drop their gaze and police chiefs choose silence. The last person she ever expected to see standing in a church, let alone looking at her like she mattered. What are you doing here? She breathed, voice barely more than air. His gaze softened, though his stance remained controlled. Watching someone walk willingly into a cage, he replied quietly. And wondering why. Her throat tightened. His words struck too close. I don't know who you think you are, she whispered, though her voice trembled with panic more than anger, but I don't need a stranger telling me. Without warning, the door thundered behind her again. Ethan's voice exploded on the other side. If you don't come out right now, so help me, Amara. Ethan's voice faltered suddenly, replaced by silence so sharp it cut the air. Because Jae-hyun had turned toward the door, just slightly, and the temperature of the room changed. The shift was subtle yet unmistakable. The air grew heavier. The silence sharpened. Power radiated from him like quiet thunder. A single second passed. Then another. The footsteps retreated from the door, quick, shaken. Amara stared, breath caught in her chest. Who is this man? And why does he feel like safety and danger at the same time? Her hands trembled again, but not from fear of Ethan anymore. This was something else. Something unfamiliar and unnervingly calm. Jae-hyun turned back to her. May I? He asked softly. Before she could respond, his hand lifted, but not to touch her. First, he hesitated, giving her the chance to pull away if she wanted to. No one ever did that anymore. No one paused. No one asked. Her lips parted on a shaky exhale. She didn't step back. His fingers brushed her cheek lightly, tracing the line of her scar with the gentlest touch she'd felt in years. Warm. Steady. Not recoiling. Not disgusted. Only present. She shivered, breath-breaking. Most people flinched when they saw it. Some stared. Some pretended not to. Ethan refused to look at it at all anymore. But this stranger, this powerful, dangerous man, touched it like it was something precious. His voice dropped to a whisper. Scars mean you survived. They're proof you refused to die. Her eyes stung, vision blurring. Most people don't see it that way. A slow, unexpected smile curved at the corner of his mouth. Not mocking. Not pitying. A real smile, quiet and reverent. Most people, he murmured, are cowards. A tear slipped free before she could stop it. She exhaled shakily, heart pounding in a way that terrified her. She opened her mouth to speak, she didn't even know what she meant to say, but the cathedral doors slammed open out front, voices erupting in panic. Boots. Shouts. Chaos. Gunfire cracked through the silence, echoing like thunder inside the marble walls. Amara's breath caught. Jae-hyun's expression hardened to steel in an instant. He stepped forward, placing himself between her and the sound. Stay behind me, he said, calm but unyielding. She stared up at him, pulse racing. Why? She whispered, barely audible. He looked down at her, eyes dark and unwavering. Because someone just came to collect you, he said. And they're not walking out of here alive. Her stomach dropped, knees weak. Collect me? Before she could ask another word, the door handle behind her clicked sharply. Someone was already there. The door began to swing open. And Amara's entire world shifted in a single heartbeat. She never expected who was waiting on the other side. The bridal room door creaked open, slow and deliberate, as if whoever stood on the other side wanted her to feel every second of dread crawling up her spine. The cold draft from the cathedral hallway swept in, flickering the candles and sending an icy shiver down Amara's arms. She clasped the front of her dress, breath trapped in her throat. Jae-hyun shifted subtly, enough to shield most of her body behind his. One hand disappeared into his coat, no sudden movement, just a smooth, controlled preparation. Every line of his stance sharpened like drawn steel. Amara could feel the shift in him, the coiled readiness of someone who knew violence intimately. The door opened wider, revealing a man dressed in black tactical gear, face half covered with a fabric mask. His eyes were cold, predatory. He raised a hand in warning, palm out, but the glint of metal beneath his sleeve told her more. A gun. Hidden, but ready. Stand down, the man ordered. His voice was gravel, unyielding. We're only here for the girl. Amara's heart seized. The girl. Me. They're here for me. Her world narrowed to the pounding in her ears. Jae-hyun didn't move. His posture didn't shift. Only his voice, low and controlled. You made a mistake coming here. The intruder let out a short, humorless laugh. We didn't come for a fight. We came to retrieve property. Amara's skin went cold, stomach twisting violently. Every instinct screamed. Property. The word struck her like a slap. The man raised his weapon slightly. Hand her over. Now. Jae-hyun stepped fully in front of her. Only then did the man's eyes widen slightly, recognition dawning too late. You, the intruder began, voice cracking. You're. He never got the chance to finish. With a single precise motion, Jae-hyun disarmed him, swift as lightning, elegant as a dancer, brutal as a predator. The gun clattered to the floor as the intruder collapsed to his knees, breath punched from his body. Jae-hyun pressed a hand to the back of the man's neck, forcing him forward as another shadow appeared in the hallway, rushing toward them. This one drew his gun mid-stride. Before Amara could scream, a shot exploded through the air. Her ears rang, heart leaping into her throat, but the bullet embedded in the doorframe behind her. Jae-hyun had already moved, already drawn his own weapon from the dark of his coat. Two perfectly placed shots, clean, controlled, deadly, sent the second intruder crashing to the marble floor outside. Silence followed, thick and trembling. Amara's breath came in shallow jolts. Her fingers clenched helplessly in the fabric of her dress. She wanted to speak, but her voice was lost somewhere far away. Jae-hyun released the first man, letting him slump unconscious to the ground. His footsteps were soundless as he returned to her side. Are you hurt? He asked, voice steady but laced with concern. Amara shook her head weakly. What is happening? Who were they? His expression darkened. People who believe they can own whatever they desire, he said. Including you. But why me? I'm nobody. His eyes cut sharply toward her, disbelieving. Nobody, he repeated. You're worth more than you know. Her throat tightened again. The sincerity in his words disarmed her more than the gunfire, more than the chaos. It felt impossible, unreal. Ethan had spent months convincing her she should be grateful anyone wanted her at all. Jae-hyun turned to the shattered quiet of the hallway. Shouts and gunfire echoed distantly now, security forces moving in, uncertain which direction the danger came from. This place isn't safe anymore, he said. We have to leave. Amara stared at him, panic rising. Leave? I can't just disappear. I'm supposed to be getting married. My family. You think your fiancé is concerned for your safety, he interrupted quietly. He was going to drag you down the aisle like a prisoner. Her breath caught. You hurt him, Jae-hyun continued. He cared about his reputation. Not you. Her chest constricted painfully. The truth she'd buried under excuses now blazed raw and undeniable. She'd spent so long pretending she was lucky to be chosen, even broken. Jae-hyun took a step closer. His voice softened. You don't owe anyone your life, Amara. Tears burned her eyes again. She blinked hard, refusing to let them fall. Footsteps thundered across the distant cathedral floors, rushing closer. Jae-hyun turned toward the narrow window on the left wall. Snow blew in harsh gusts from outside, coating the ledge. He unlatched it with one swift motion and pushed it open. A black car waited below, engine running, parked alongside the stone wall. She stared at the steep drop. An impossible choice. The life she knew behind her, cruel but familiar. And this stranger, dangerous, unreadable, offering escape. Her heart pounded, voice cracking. Why are you helping me? He held her gaze. Because you deserve better than a life lived in fear. A tremor rippled through her. And because, he added after a moment, quieter, rawer, you remind me what it means to fight for something worth saving. The honesty in his voice struck her breathless. No one had spoken to her like that in years. No one had looked at her like she wasn't broken beyond repair. The door behind them jolted again, this time from someone trying to kick it open. You have 5 seconds, Jae-hyun said, stepping onto the ledge and turning to her, hand extended. Choose your freedom, or stay and be owned. Her chest heaved. Tears spilled freely now, shaking loose from everything she'd held locked inside. She looked at the door. The screams. The chaos. The life of compromise waiting on the other side. Then she looked at his hand, steady, open, waiting. Her decision formed without hesitation. She stepped forward, placing her shaking hand into his. Warmth. Safety. Uncertainty. Something like hope. He pulled her carefully onto the ledge, steadying her with a firm arm around her waist. The door behind them shattered open. Amara. Ethan's voice roared, dripping fury. Don't you dare. She closed her eyes, letting the wind whip against her face, letting the cold sting her skin. For the first time in years, she felt alive. Jae-hyun's voice brushed her ear, quiet enough only she could hear. Hold on to me. She did. And together they disappeared into the frozen air, falling toward the unknown. The snow swallowed the world. She didn't know where they were going. She only knew one thing. She had just chosen herself. And nothing would ever be the same. But the moment their feet hit solid ground and the car doors slammed shut, a voice crackled over Jae-hyun's radio, sharp, urgent, rattled. Boss, there's been a breach at the safe house. They already found the girl's file. This isn't random. Someone set you up. Amara's stomach twisted violently. Jae-hyun's expression hardened into something fierce and lethal. Who? He demanded. A static pause. Then a single name. The Whitlock family. Amara's world tilted. Her fiancé's family had tried to have her taken. The car tore away from the church, the city lights blurring into streaks of white and steel. And in the quiet darkness of the back seat, Jae-hyun turned toward her slowly. We're not running anymore, he said. We're fighting now. She stared into his eyes, dark, intense, unwavering, and for the first terrifying, liberating time in her life. She believed him. What she didn't know yet was that she was the reason the war had started. and soon every secret would come undone. The city lights streaked past the car windows like blurred constellations, neon and snow mixing into a chaotic ribbon of color. Amara pressed a trembling hand to the glass, watching the cathedral shrink into the distance until it vanished entirely. Her chest rose and fell too quickly, each breath sharp, unsteady. Every cell in her body vibrated with adrenaline, confusion, terror, and something else she couldn't yet name. Across from her, Jae-hyun sat perfectly still, gaze fixed forward, jaw tight enough to fracture stone. He hadn't spoken since the radio transmission. The muscles in his forearms tensed beneath his sleeves, veins standing out like dark lines carved into marble. He was thinking, calculating, strategizing the way only a man accustomed to war knew how. A thin mist filled the interior of the car, fog from their breaths mixing with the cold seeping in through the doors. The engine hummed, low and relentless, as the driver wove through traffic with expert precision. Amara swallowed hard, finding her voice trapped somewhere deep, tangled with everything she'd spent months suppressing. "They tried to take me," she whispered. The words shook. Saying them made the truth real. Why? Why would Ethan's family want to? What could they possibly want from me? Jae-hyun's gaze slowly shifted to her. The intensity in his eyes was unsettling, not cruel, not cold, but frightening in its depth. It was the stare of a man who saw far more than he ever said aloud. "You don't know, do you?" he asked quietly. Her brows pulled together. "Know what?" Silence stretched heavy between them, until the driver spoke from the front seat, voice tense, hurried. "Boss, there's something else." The file they stole wasn't only about her identity. It was medical records, psychological evaluations, and... "Enough," Jae-hyun commanded. The driver fell silent immediately. Amara's pulse thundered. She turned fully toward Jae-hyun, desperation breaking through fear. "Tell me," she pleaded. "I deserve to know what's happening to me." Jae-hyun leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees, hands clasped. Snowlight cut across his face in sharp angles, highlighting the faint scar near his brow, a mark she hadn't noticed before. It made him look both fierce and painfully human. "Your fiancé approached the Whitlock political machine originally for funding," he began slowly. "What he didn't mention was that he used your personal information as collateral." She stared, disbelieving. "Collateral? I'm not. What does that even mean?" "It means," Jae-hyun said, voice measured, "that your value to them lies in something they believe you have. Something they are willing to kill for." Her stomach lurched. Everything inside her recoiled from the implication. "But I don't have anything," she whispered. "I'm not wealthy. I don't have influence. I'm just..." His gaze sharpened. "Stop saying that." A tremor ran through her spine. "You are not just anything," he continued. "You survived a fire that should have killed you. You survived abandonment, humiliation, and pain that would have broken most people. And yet you're sitting here. Breathing. Fighting. Do not diminish that." Her throat closed, emotion choking her from the inside. He looked away briefly, breath steadying, then spoke again. "You said you didn't know anything that would make you a target. But there is something else, something buried deep. Whatever happened the night of the fire that gave you your scar, it wasn't an accident." Her body went cold. The fire. The screaming. The collapsing beams. The smoke suffocating her lungs. The door she thought she pushed open. That suddenly slammed shut in her face. "I don't remember it clearly," she admitted, shaking her head. Everything is fragmented. I was told it was faulty wiring. You were told a lie, he replied. She flinched as if struck. How can you possibly know that, she whispered. Because, Jae-hyun said, voice low, my organization has been tracking the Whitlock syndicate for months. And 2 weeks ago, we intercepted a conversation where they mentioned finishing what the fire failed to do. They weren't talking about property damage. Her breath vanished. Tears stung her eyes again, blurring the world into streaks of white and black. They tried to kill me, she choked. And now they're trying again. He nodded once. Not pitying. Not soft. Only truthful. And now, he added, they know you're with me. Which means they'll come harder. A sudden crash jolted the vehicle, metal scraping against metal, loud enough to make Amara yelp. The car swerved violently, tires screeching against wet pavement. Amara grabbed the edge of the seat, thrown sideways as the vehicle spun once, twice, then straightened. Ambush, the driver shouted. Gunfire erupted outside, rapid, cracking, echoing off the frozen buildings. Bullets shattered the rear window, glass raining like ice across the seats.
Gunfire erupted outside, rapid, cracking, echoing off the frozen buildings. Bullets shattered the rear window, glass raining like ice across the seats. Down. Jae-hyun commanded, pulling Amara onto the floor, shielding her with his body. The warmth of him pressed against her, solid and real, anchoring her as panic poisoned the air. Her heart raced wildly, terror and adrenaline twisting into something raw and electric. The driver swerved sharply again. A motorcycle screamed past the right side of the car, gunmen firing relentlessly. Another vehicle accelerated behind them, trapping them in a boxed pursuit. 3 bikes, 1 SUV closing on us, the driver growled. They're trying to corner us. Jae-hyun pulled a second weapon from inside his coat and lowered the window halfway, leaning out just enough to see. He fired 2 precise shots. The first bike skidded sideways, crashing into a row of parked cars. The second moved in closer, forcing them toward a narrow bridge. Amara clutched the floor, praying silently. Please don't die. Please don't die. Not him. Not now. Her voice finally broke in a tremor. Are we going to make it? He looked down at her, eyes blazing with a fierce certainty that startled her. Yes, he said. I will not let them take you. Something inside her cracked open, the fragile shell she'd built to survive. His protectiveness wasn't possession. It wasn't control. It was something she'd never known, someone willing to fight for her, not against her. The third bike closed in, gun raised. Jae-hyun slammed his palm against the dashboard. Hold tight. The driver jerked the wheel, slamming the car hard into the motorcycle. Metal screamed, sparks flying as the rider flipped over the windshield and crashed into the pavement behind them. Amara buried her face against Jae-hyun's chest, shaking uncontrollably. The SUV behind them accelerated, ramming their bumper, forcing them toward the edge of the bridge. We're losing control, the driver yelled. Drive into the tunnel, Jae-hyun ordered. Kill the lights. The car veered sharply, tires skidding as they shot down into a narrow access tunnel beneath the bridge. Darkness swallowed them instantly. The overhead lights went dead. The engine roared like thunder. The SUV followed, headlights blazing. Cut power, Jae-hyun said. The driver flipped a switch. The engine went quiet. The car coasted in complete darkness, silent and invisible. The SUV's headlights blasted past the tunnel opening above them, losing sight, tires screeching as it sped blindly into the shadows beyond. The silence afterward was deafening. Amara trembled violently, struggling to breathe. She felt Jae-hyun's hand touch hers, warm, steady, grounding. "Look at me," he murmured gently. She lifted her tear-filled eyes. "You're safe right now," he said. "You're not alone anymore." Something inside her shattered. Not from pain, from release. A sob burst loose, raw and uncontrollable. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking. For the first time since the fire, she wasn't trying to be silent or strong or invisible. She was breaking. And she wasn't breaking alone. Jae-hyun shifted closer, his voice a soft anchor. "You're allowed to feel it," he whispered. "All of it. You survived burning. You survived abandonment. You survived the world trying to erase you. You don't have to pretend anymore." She leaned into him, slowly, hesitantly, until her forehead rested against his chest. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't offer hollow comfort. He simply stayed. Solid. Warm. Real. For several long moments, the world narrowed to the sound of his heartbeat, deep and steady, a rhythm she clung to like a lifeline. When her breathing finally steadied, she spoke into the fabric of his coat, voice quiet and fragile. "Why do you care what happens to me? You don't even know me." His hand lifted, fingers brushing gently through her hair, tucking a curl behind her ear. The movement was so tender she almost broke all over again. "I know what it looks like when someone decides they're unworthy of being loved," he said softly. "I've seen that look in the mirror." She lifted her head, meeting his gaze in the dark. "What happened to you?" she asked. His jaw tightened. His eyes shadowed. "One day," he murmured, "I'll tell you." His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then back to her eyes, restraint and longing warring silently between them. "But not tonight," he finished gently. "Tonight is about your survival." The tunnel lights flickered back on suddenly, flooding the space with harsh yellow. The driver straightened, exhaling shakily. "We lost them. At least for now." Jae-hyun nodded, then turned back to her. "We need to get you to a secure location. Somewhere no one will find you. You'll be safe there while we uncover who ordered this and why." Amara wiped her cheeks, voice unsteady but resolute. "No," she said quietly. "I'm done hiding. I won't disappear again." His brows lifted slightly. A slow, impressed smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "There she is," he murmured. "The woman who refuses to be owned." She inhaled shakily. "Teach me," she said. "Help me fight." Something sparked in his eyes, admiration, respect, something deeper. "I will," he promised. "But first I need you to trust me." Her heart thudded once, heavy enough to shake her ribs. "I do," she said. He held her gaze a long moment, something unspoken passing between them, something fragile and electric and terrifying. Then he murmured, voice like velvet and steel. "I knew you would." The car rolled forward slowly, heading deeper into the tunnel. Neither of them noticed the small blinking device attached just beneath the back bumper, its red light pulsing softly in the darkness. Tracked. Marked. Hunted. They were not nearly as safe as they believed. And soon, the war would come straight to their door. The tunnel opened into a sprawling underground parking structure beneath an abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of the city. The building loomed heavy and silent above them, its rusted steel beams stretching into darkness. The snow outside muffled all distant sound, an eerie quiet after violence. The car rolled to a stop beside a concrete pillar. Jae-hyun stepped out first, scanning the area with the precision of a man who trusted nothing, not even silence. The driver exited next, moving toward a metal security door, swiping access codes rapidly. Amara opened her door slowly, legs trembling as she stepped onto solid ground. The cold bit sharply through her thin silk gown, her breath blooming white in the frigid air. She wrapped her arms tightly around herself, shivering, not sure if it was from the cold or the aftershock of fear. Jae-hyun turned toward her, removing his black coat and placing it around her shoulders with careful hands. The warmth of the fabric enveloped her, smelling faintly of cedar and gunpowder and something clean she couldn't name. "You're freezing," he said softly. She swallowed, searching his eyes. "I'm all right." His gaze lingered on her face, for once, not analyzing or strategizing, but simply seeing her. Something unguarded flickered through his expression, brief but unmistakable. Before she could speak, the driver returned. "We're clear. Inner security is locked. You can move inside." Jae-hyun nodded. "Stay sharp. They won't give up." He touched Amara's back gently, guiding her toward the steel door. The hallway beyond was narrow and dim, lit by a series of flickering overhead lights. The air carried the faint smell of oil and dust. "This safe house was built during the old smuggling wars," Jae-hyun explained. "Reinforced concrete, buried 3 stories below ground. No signal can penetrate. No tracking. No one can get in without my access." His voice was steady, reassuring. For the first time since the church, Amara's heartbeat began to settle. But her calm lasted only seconds. The lights overhead snapped off, one by one, plunging the corridor into darkness. Amara froze. "What's happening?" Jae-hyun's body went instantly rigid. His hand closed around her arm, drawing her behind him. "They found us," he murmured. The emergency lights flashed red. A shrill alarm began to scream. Metal shutters slammed down behind them, locking off their exit. A voice boomed through the intercom system, cold, triumphant, venomous. "Well done, Mr. Kong. You saved us the trouble of hunting." Amara's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice. Ethan. Her fiancé. Jae-hyun's jaw clenched, teeth grinding. The red lights washed over his face like blood. Ethan's voice echoed through the concrete walls. "You think you can protect her? You think she matters to you? She's already ours. She always was." Amara's chest constricted painfully. Rage and heartbreak tangled inside her. "That's where you're wrong," Jae-hyun growled. Gunfire exploded from the far end of the corridor, bullets sparking off metal. Jae-hyun shoved Amara behind a thick support column, positioning himself between her and the incoming fire. The driver drew his weapon, returning shots, shouting, "Cover the boss." Shadows moved rapidly, armed men flooding the corridor. The air filled with smoke and the deafening thunder of gunshots. Jae-hyun stepped forward, fearless, firing with lethal precision. 2 attackers fell. A third rushed. A knife glinted. The blade slashed across Jae-hyun's side, ripping through fabric and flesh. "Jae-hyun!" Amara cried. He staggered, breath hitching, blood blooming dark across his shirt. But he didn't fall. He turned, pinned the attacker against the wall, and disarmed him with brutal efficiency. Another shot rang out. A bullet struck Jae-hyun's shoulder, spinning him backward. Amara screamed his name, scrambling toward him. He hit the ground hard, blood pooling beneath him. His gun skidded across the floor. The attackers closed in. The driver fought desperately but was overwhelmed, forced to his knees. Ethan stepped out of the shadows, pristine suit untouched by the violence around him. His expression was smug, sickening. "Well," he said calmly, "I must admit, I didn't expect you to jump out the window." Dramatic. But pointless. Amara was always going to end up back where she belongs. Amara's nails dug into her palms hard enough to draw blood. "You tried to kill me," she said, voice shaking. Ethan smiled coldly. "Don't be naive. It was nothing personal. You were a liability. A loose thread. And now, thanks to this vigilante, you're an asset again. A bargaining piece." He raised a hand. "Bring her." Two men advanced toward Amara. She backed away, shaking violently. Her body screamed with fear, but beneath the terror, something else rose like flame. Jae-hyun coughed, blood at his lips, struggling onto one elbow. "Amara," he rasped. "Don't let them take you." His voice was raw, broken, yet fierce. Ethan laughed. "Look at him. Bleeding on the floor for a woman he barely knows. Tragic." He reached down, grabbing Amara's chin cruelly, forcing her face toward him. "You belong to me." Something inside her snapped. A lifetime of silence. A lifetime of shrinking. A lifetime of being owned. No more. Amara's hand closed around Jae-hyun's fallen weapon. She rose slowly, heart pounding so violently she could feel it in her bones. Ethan's eyes widened. "Put that down," he hissed. Her voice was steady, stronger than she had ever heard it. "No." She fired. The bullet tore through Ethan's shoulder, throwing him backward. His scream echoed off the concrete walls. The room erupted into chaos again, shouts, gunfire, panic. Amara stood unmoving, gun steady in her hands. "I am not your property," she said, voice ringing with power. "And I'm not afraid anymore." The remaining attackers hesitated, stunned by the shift in control. Jae-hyun pushed himself upright, blood soaking his shirt, eyes locked on her, not with surprise, but with awe. "Amara," he breathed. The attackers lunged again, but she moved before they reached her, kicking one weapon away, striking another across the face. Her movements were untrained but fueled by something stronger, survival. Fury. Freedom. The driver seized the opportunity, regaining his weapon and finishing the fight. Seconds later, silence fell, the kind that rang in the bones. Ethan lay groaning on the ground, bleeding, powerless. Amara dropped the gun, chest heaving, tears streaming down her face. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to her knees. Jae-hyun crawled toward her despite his injuries, reaching her side. He cupped her face gently with shaking hands, ignoring the pain tearing through him. "You saved your own life," he whispered. "No one will ever take that from you." She stared into his eyes, dark, fierce, and soft all at once, and the world blurred. "You're bleeding," she choked. He smiled faintly, breath unsteady. "I told you I wouldn't let them take you." Her hand trembled as she touched his cheek for the first time, mirroring the way he had touched her scar in the church. "You came for me," she whispered. "Always," he murmured. "Even before I knew your name." Emotion crashed through her, too big for her chest to hold. "I'm afraid," she confessed. He leaned his forehead against hers. "Be afraid," he whispered. "But not of me." Her voice broke. "Why do you care what happens to me?" His eyes closed, pain and truth merging in his voice. Because the moment I looked at you, I saw a future worth living for. Her breath shattered. And then he collapsed against her, unconscious, blood staining her hands. Jae-hyun, she cried, panic ripping through her. The driver rushed to her side. We need to get him to medical. Now. Amara wiped tears furiously from her face, gripping Jae-hyun's hand tightly. You stay alive, she whispered fiercely. Do you hear me? You stay with me. She pressed her forehead to his. Please, don't leave. His fingers twitched weakly around hers. Soft morning light streamed through the windows of a quiet lakeside villa far from the city. Birds chirped faintly outside, and the wind rustled through tall pines. Amara stood at the balcony railing, wrapped in a wool blanket, breathing the cold, clean air. Her scar caught the sunrise, glowing softly. Behind her, footsteps approached. She turned. Jae-hyun stood in the doorway, arm in a sling, healing but alive. His eyes found hers, warm and steady. How's the view? He asked softly. She smiled, small but real. Beautiful. He walked to her slowly, stopping inches away. You look free, he said. I am, she whispered. He lifted a hand, very slowly, and rested his fingers under her chin, tilting her face upward. His thumb brushed her scar, the same gentle reverence as the first time. No fear, he murmured. Not anymore. He exhaled, relief softening the hard lines of his face. Amara, he said, voice low, vulnerable. I don't want to own you. I want to stand beside you. If you'll let me. She reached up, placing her hand over his. I choose you, she whispered. Not because I need protection, but because I finally want something for myself. His breath trembled. A rare, unguarded smile touched his lips. Then I'm yours, he said. Their foreheads met, eyes closed, no rushed kiss, just the quiet closeness of two souls rebuilt from ashes. Two survivors. Two warriors. Two hearts learning to breathe again. Together. She had never expected acceptance. She found something far greater. A beginning. Thank you for listening to Korean Mafia Boss touched her scarred face and smiled. The black bride never expected acceptance. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world. Until next time, Red Heart.